And, my kids are learning how to pray in front of people. They're just learning how to pray in general.
Well, that's huge. Today I have somebody that I just met probably, 2 weeks ago, and her name is Skylar Anderson.
Hello.
And good to have you today, Skylar.
Thanks for having me.
And a couple things. We're going to be talking today, one about Skylar and their family's life and doing homeschooling. Of course, with a podcast like Winning by Faith, we're going to be talking about a little bit about how faith has played a part there. And hopefully as we do this, we can kind of guide and lead, the viewer of just the ins and outs and what all happens here. So great to have you, Skylar.
Thank
and
you.
I think to start, why don't we talk maybe just a couple minutes? I know that you guys have a strong family of faith that really has amplified, I think, as we talked earlier, which Skylar and I have had a time today to be able to talk quite a while, and there's been a lot of God stories, so that's really cool. I think of your family drawing closer, and I think you mentioned to me even where in the last months you set aside like Facebook and social media just so you could hear clearer from God and all the things you're doing. So
So I turned 33 in November, and before my birthday, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something. It's a little different, than what most people do. And I was like, I'm done with Facebook. Facebook was probably my biggest distraction because you interact with people more often and you just sit there and you scroll. And I know I'm not the only person guilty of this, but we just sit there and scroll and lose track of time. And you're like, oh man, I've been on here for an hour and a half. I should have been doing something a little better with my time. So I just decided to completely cut it out. And I set it for 1 year for my whole 33rd year of life. And hopefully I just don't get back on. But if I do, it'll be much more structured. But I was like, if Jesus can do everything that he did in 33 years, I think I can take a year off of Facebook.
that's right, because he was here 33 years, and you're 33.
Yeah. So I was like, better, no better time than now.
How cool is that? I mean, there's an overlap right there. So I think what's neat about that is you're setting aside time to say that, and as we get into it, you're setting aside time and pulling out the distractions so that you can do the things you feel you're needing to do.
Yes.
Tell them a little bit just quickly about your family, because you guys are you're all over the place.
We're pretty busy. We have 4 children, my husband and I. We've been married it'll be 12 years this year. And since we've been married, we've started an auto body shop, and then it's had different wings come off of that. We sell mowers, and then we also do window tinting and detailing, and I'm a beekeeper. We've had...
Now, how did you get into beekeeping? I mean, you just don't start beekeeping.
It's one of those things that I'd always been interested in, but had never taken the plunge, and I guess maybe that was one of the bigger things more recently. Like, I've been doing that for maybe 3 or 4 years, but...
The beekeeping?
Mm-hmm. But I was always scared to do it, But then finally I was like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. So that was probably one of the first things that was like, this makes no sense, but I'm going to do it anyway.
For the sake of honey, is that right?
Well, I wasn't super crazy about honey, believe it or not. I just really wanted to learn about bees, and I wanted to interact with them because... here we could have a whole separate podcast about honeybees because I can talk about them so much. But I think I told him that earlier. But
so do you have the bee suit and all of that stuff?
I've got all the things.
Oh, wow.
I've talked at conference and invited people out and go through the hives with them. And I just love to talk about them, teach about them, because it's one of those things that without them, Earth wouldn't last super long.
Well, something to be interesting at some point for you would be asked, why God? Because I heard your stories earlier, and hearing God speak to you and guide you, and it's like, I think at some point, it'd be cool to hear why God had you start bees.
Yeah.
To know whatever they do in life would reflect to what you're doing, because I bet there's an overlap.
There is, yeah.
Anyway.
For sure. So along with the beekeeping, we have 4 children, 3 girls, 12, 10, 5, and then our youngest is a son, and he's 2. So we have all that. I'm trying to think of it. Oh, we have the farm. So I've got mini cows that I breed, and then I have chickens and pigs. We have a lemur.
What?
A lemur. It doesn't really fit in with the farm
A
theme, but I
lemur.
had a
What
petting
is
zoo.
what is a lemur?
They're from Madagascar. Like King Julian from Madagascar. That movie, I have one of those. I had two, but we lost one. So it's just like my life's kind of like a
So
zoo.
the animals, you raise them for, I mean, you said cows and pigs and chickens.
So
and
the pigs,
they're not just your friends, are they?
the lemur is. But I'm trying to be more sustainable. So, we've got the eggs from the chickens. I'm going to get meat chickens, so I know where my meat's coming from. The cows are pets. Those were just a,
So they're
I
not
want
milk
that.
cows?
no, I'd love to have that, but we travel, and they're very high maintenance.
So they're just cows?
They're just cows that I breed, and we're going to have some baby calves around August.
Do you talk to them?
I talk to everything. Talk to everything.
Wow.
And then the pigs, more like to be more sustainable on those
Okay.
too. So
Got you. Chickens, eggs?
chickens, eggs. We're gonna get meat chickens. My husband doesn't know that yet.
Oh, my.
So
Makes me think of our worship leader at my church because they raise rabbits, chickens, and for meat. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I'll go
We
to the
had
grocery
rabbits.
store.
Not a fan. Wasn't a fan of the rabbit life.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. That part was, I grew up on a farm, so I always had the animals, and, I always wake up and take care of the animals, and used to gripe about it then, but now it's kind of my zen. I love doing it. Some days are harder than others, like everything, but, I do go down there and I talk to them, I thank my chickens every time I'm down there for their eggs, because wouldn't have them without them, so happy chickens,
And you're building a home.
Oh yeah, we're building a home. We've been working on it for 3 years. We're finally winding down and painting walls and flooring, light fixtures, stuff like that. We've probably got at least 2 months left since we're trying to do most of it ourselves, but
Ryan, I would be jealous. Ryan and I would because it's got an indoor pool.
It has an indoor pool.
I hear you tell you.
a half court, basketball court, theater, indoor trampoline. It's got a bar for entertaining, and it's actually set up to where it can be completely locked off from our house so we can rent it out someday if that fits into the plan. We live in that part right now, so the kids think it's wonderful. I think it's loud, but I just
Wow.
tune it out, move on with my day, but it's a lot of basketball.
I think it's, it's really cool, and, I want the viewer to kind of see that, your all's life has so much going on.
It is busy.
You have your hands on a lot of things, kind of in a cool way, in a good way. It's like the way life you want to think is really meant to be, which is very homey with things like the animals and all the things you're doing, and the beekeeping, and you look at all the facets of it compared to just being involved maybe just in TV and social media and the corporate life and life's, whatever. You're really building kind of a legacy to build around your family and your children, and I think that's really cool, which is going to get us, probably into the homeschooling side. It's kind of where I'm going with all of that because,
Well, I think you can get lost in pretty much anything going on. So I could get lost in my business. I could get lost in these external things in my life, but I'd rather get lost in things at home.
I think your kids probably appreciate that too. I really
Some
think
days.
kids.
Not when they're down there breaking ice for the animals.
Well, but I think, if you were to look at it, their involvement just in family. I mean, I still have 3 girls at home, and I think what would mean more to them is just home life and involvement more than anything else.
Yeah.
Going anywhere else, all that activity, just that kind of home life, which really in our day and time has kind of been lost.
Yeah.
Okay, we've lost a lot of that due to whatever, entertainment and social media and 5,000 sports. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Not that there isn't some good in all of that,
Sure.
but the normal just being at home and having home life like that and being outside and doing things. I mean, this whole arena, is really cool what I hear you guys setting up. And
Oh, we have a horse too. You said arena, it made me think about horses, and I was like, oh yeah, we've got those too. That's for my daughter.
is that right? How many horses?
We have one full size, but then for a little bit I got into mini horses, and I thought I had to have that. But we have one 25-year-old stud horse that is just, he's like Eeyore from Pooh Bear. That's just what I should have named him. I named him Leonard, but he's an Eeyore. He just mopes around most of the time. He's just going to live his final days there, and
Wow.
my kids can hop on him if they wanted to, and he'll just stand and chill.
I'm going to have to twist your arm. I think my girls would love to see your home or what you
Yeah.
have, because you've got so much life. I mean, to me, that's I miss it, because I had grandparents that had a lot of that going on when I was growing up, and unfortunately, they have all passed away before I had my children.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had been here, they would have loved to see the different things, from the cows to the pigs to all the stuff.
Well, it was funny. Some of our friends, their daughter moved home not too long ago, and her birthday was just a few weeks ago, and it's dead of winter, kind of live in the middle of nowhere, and she really just wanted to go to a petting zoo for her birthday. She's 26 maybe, and they're like,
Let's go to the Andersons.
actually, we can. And so they did. They came over and they saw the animals, and she's just like, oh, this is like real. Like, this really is like a petting zoo. So it was cool.
I think, when I hear all that, it is cool. It's really very inspiring. And yet, for people to hear that, they might think, man, what a great life. And really, on one angle, it is for you guys. It really is. Now, has your life been perfect? I mean, I know you talked about having some challenge that really, was very challenging. And, in that challenge, you're finding that, you're finding in the last whatever couple of years, it slowly went there, how big God really is in your life, and how he really is guiding and leading.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard it in your stories of how he's, talking to you and perfecting you and letting you know that he's in control. And I hear that as you're changing your family's life and everything, you're investing there, and God has become like the center of that as well. So, you've got all of this good stuff going, as well as, you've had some challenge, and you may or may not want to mention that, but it has driven you to even want a stronger family life that has God centered in it on top of it, which, I tell you, we all know that God's way is the best way, and when he's in the middle of it, it really does work, and he does things that you don't even know, and he brings things about that you had no idea would come. And he puts desires on our hearts that we didn't even know existed until he makes it real. Yeah. And he takes old desires away as well. So, I mean, he's the one that perfects this overall plan on our life.
Absolutely.
And without him, it can be really chaotic.
Yeah.
And, that's really what, I say all of that because our viewer, and we started looking at this homeschooling that we're going to get into. I mean, people are so busy today, okay? Yeah. Moms and dads working, but not only are they working, they're just on the run. They might be in the corporate world. They might, be looking at entertainment. Everybody's running to and fro, whether it's sports, whether it's partying, whether it's just events, whatever. There's so much.
Like I said, you can just get lost in it.
You can get lost in it. So it looks like people don't have time to do anything, let alone that. I think you would agree, Skylar, that as you just said, when you said about Facebook and social media, I'm clearing that out so that I can be not only a better investment in my life and in God and for my family, I'm making room,
Yeah.
And
that's all God wants you to do.
Exactly.
Fulfill it.
And again, none of us are perfect, but in your story, I'm hearing that you've got all this good stuff, but you're making room for what is right and what is meant to be in God, to enrich your family, to make a legacy and build this family. Right. And it just so happens in all of that, you're working in homeschooling.
Yes.
And I think, as we, when we get to that, I want to think, what, out of all you've got going on and changing, what led you in the midst of all of this to want to do homeschooling? Was it just the school system? Was it faith? Was it a combination of a lot of things?
It was a combination of a lot of things. Some of these are going to be my own opinions, so I hopefully won't offend anybody. It's not my intentions. So I had some challenges, and my marriage, and that was one of my focuses, was my marriage and saving that and saving the family and everything like that. And for some reason in this time, it kept popping up that I wanted to homeschool. And I'm just like, I'd talked to my therapist about it. He's like, no, like, too much. That's too much. And I was like, ookie. So I didn't listen, which is not a surprise as well. But it just kept popping up. I remember we were working on the house, me and my mother-in-law, we were sealing concrete. And I was just like, I think I want to homeschool. And she's so supportive. She's such a wonderful woman. And I was just kind of feeling her out, seeing what she'd say. And she's like, okay, well, why? And that's kind of when I was like, why do I want to homeschool? What is this force, behind me that keeps putting this on my heart? And I said something to my husband about it, and he's like, I don't think so. I don't think, we're so busy. We have this going on. I don't want him to be weird. I don't want him to not be socialized. And my whole time, I'm like, I have so many friends that do homeschool, and their children are just lovely. Mm-hmm. Like, they're so polite, they're kind, they can socialize. So I'm just like, I see this, but he hadn't been exposed to it. So that went on for a while. I just was thinking about it constantly, and finally I was like, here's the deal. I want to homeschool. Like, it is, I can't quit thinking about it. It's very heavy on my heart. I feel this push. And he's like, I want them to play sports. We were both active in sports, but he was way better than me. And so he's like, I want our kids to have those opportunities. And I was like, okay. So I called our school. I went back and forth, some not pleasant conversations. And they're like, one of the people I talked to was like, I don't want homeschooled kids on my team. I want kids that want to be at school on my team. I'm like, well, do you know they want to be at school? Anyway, so I was like, okay, so where in all the policies does it say my kids can't play sports here? So I found out that there actually wasn't a policy, and it is up to the school in our state to, the schools can decide whether or not to allow it, but there has to be like a policy on it, is to my understanding. So I went to the school board after calling, I think it was like 30 surrounding schools to see what their policies were on it, because I was going in with some ammunition like, hey.
You really got aggressive on this.
I did. It totally consumed me for a while, making these phone calls and, building my facts that I wanted to bring to them. I called the senator. I wanted to get a letter from her because she is in support of it. And so I went in front of the school board, and it was fine. It was way less intimidating than I thought, because I knew quite a few of them just from business. And so I went in front of them and told them all this, and they're like, okay, well, that was pretty good. We can't vote on it tonight because they had a couple board members missing, so I had to wait until the next month to hear how they were going to handle it. And they ended up passing it to where they would allow homeschoolers to play in school. So as soon as that passed, I was like, it's go time. So
it's go time.
Yeah.
We're going to do this.
Yeah. I had a little opposition from my middle daughter, because she's a very social butterfly. So she's like, my friends. And I was like, hey, I don't want you to look at this as you're being pulled from your friends. I want you to think of it as when you're around your friends, it's going to be more quality time, because you're not going to be in the school setting. You're going to be at home doing the things that you should be doing as a kid, whatever it is that it is. It's not sitting in a school where they're telling you, shh, hush, quit talking so much. So we've actually had kids over way more than when they were in school. Because homeschooling for me, which I haven't been doing it super long, but I've dove in pretty hard. Homeschooling for me has been less challenging than sending my kids to a public school. And the reasons are, it's a lot more relaxed for us. We do have a schedule, but it's a relaxed schedule because I'm kind of unschooling them in a way. Like, I learn better in a hands-on environment, so that's the way we teach. Our curriculum is an extra tool. Like, I do use curriculum, but I'm also teaching them hands-on stuff so that they're experiencing it rather than just reading it in a book. So that was kind of my push. That's the way I wanted my kids to learn, because I could see that they thrive better in that environment rather than just sitting there in school waiting on other students to finish because they don't learn at the same pace.
Well, there's so many pieces. I want to say there's a lot of pieces to this homeschooling piece of pie. Mm-hmm. And multiple things here. One, you're addressing some of those because you're finding room for this to happen. Mm-hmm. You're making room for it to happen. Many we homeschool, then that's going to ruin my kids socially, but you're finding that balance between social life for them, still having their friends of the school, but making daytime more quality time and instilling a lot there. I don't know how it is everywhere, but wherever, of course in Missouri where you are, you've dealt with the sports things, so you're having, your kids be able to do some sports if they like it. Mm-hmm. So far you're balancing a lot of pieces out, which again, a lot of people's fears are social life, what's going to happen there, and what's this going to look like, and why would I do it? And so you're answering some of the questions. I think people that want to homeschool, you're saying that the values of it, number one.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's multiple things we're going to get into here, but I would ask maybe, so you got over some of your initial fears, I will say, like the school system as far as sports, and so you're starting to blend that.
Yeah. And
you got over the fear of your child having a social life, and that's starting to work, and probably they're going to have more than ever, not only with their friends, it sounds like, but also at home, because they're going to be to experience a lot more and have a lot less wasted time in the day. And
some of them are better at it than others.
Right.
One of the fun things too is that I'm learning how my kids learn. My oldest, she is very goal-oriented, self-motivating. So she'll wake up at 6 a.m. and be done with homework by 8. And I'm like, well, I just had my first sip of coffee, so way to go, girl.
No doubt.
Then my middle daughter.
I need her energy.
I know. Then my middle daughter, she is not self-motivated, so I have to push on her a little bit more and be more involved with her learning. And then my youngest daughter, she is 5, so she's learning to read, and she's set goals. She's like, Mom, I'm going to learn to read by the time I'm 6. And I'm like, girlfriend, that's just in a few months. It's in June. And she's like, well, I'm going to know how to read by then. Well, she's reading 5 books since we started.
Wow.
Which I'm not taking all the credit by any means, because she's been in school for, she's in kindergarten. So they worked with them a lot. But it is just so fruitful seeing them just like learning these skills and being a part of it.
Well, you're so much more part of their life, which maybe some of these things you get, in public school, I don't know, but you're guiding them. Their differences, how one wants certain things, how another learns another way.
Yeah. And
you can feed that and have more flexibility in the day to just let them be who they are. Mm-hmm. And, the viewer can hear that. You can also hear that, you're structuring in. You guys are busy. That's why when we initially talked today, it's like you've got so many pieces going on as a family, let alone building a home, which you guys are doing on your own, and the auto body and the beekeeping and the farm, and so much. But yet you've got time to invest in your children's life and do these kind of things. And so it says there's room.
There is room.
As well as to cut out social media. So I think we can all probably, I've looked on my phone before and it says, you spent this many hours a day. And I'm like, you got to be kidding.
I have not fully taken social media out. I get a kick out of TikTok. That's kind of like when I need.
Well, there you go. But look at the time, right? The time you could spend on there. So TikTok, Instagram.
I've set a timer on my phone. So if I'm on there too much, it's like, hey, you're not supposed to be on here. Some days I'm like, so glad I said that.
So I'd say the thing in that then is you've got to have the, what's the right word? You can set a timer, but you got to obey it. I don't know the word for that. Discipline.
Sometimes I'm better than others. Other days I'm just like, old ways set in and I just waste time.
Well, I think you're beginning to value what really matters. And that anybody that wants to homeschool, you're going to have to value that,
Yeah.
some things have to go. Time limits on some things have to happen. And you got to say, what do you value more? And what I've heard in your story starting to come out today, as well as when we talk, you're valuing your home, you're valuing your family, you're valuing your kids. And that's what we want in life, not, so many other things they could get involved with. I think many families do so many sports that their kids are wore out and don't even know what they're doing when they could really want some quality time such as this.
It's really, speaking from our experience, and so our business, we built to where we can have our family there. Like, my 3 girls didn't go to daycare because they came to work with us every day.
Wow.
Until they went to school. And, my mom worked with us for a long time, so they were around their grandparents, and then I've had cousins work with us. So it's always been this family-oriented business. And then my son is a totally different creature, and he was just not safe there. So he had to go to daycare, and he still does, and it's a great daycare. But, when he's school age, I'm going to pull him, and I'm going to do the same thing.
But you're working him into your family, and you're working where it works and balancing it out.
So there are some days where all of my kids come to work, all the girls. I take Bo to daycare, but my girls come to work, and I'm out there tinting windows, and my 5-year-old's reading a book to me so that I can hear her mistakes or, help her with this, help her with that, or... my middle daughter, Jace, she'll be doing language arts, and I have to read off her spelling words or something. Like, we're making it work.
Because you're valuing it. We make whatever happen that we value. It's like we make time for the phone to happen because, we're valuing, I guess, wasting time on a phone. But, boy, we work it in.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of where are our priorities. And really, if you have children, then they should be your priority. Family should be a priority.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of see it. These things are priority over so much else because really, once you become a parent, it's a selfless life. Not that we don't make time for our mates or spouses.
There are times that I'm like, not too long ago, it was a nicer day out, and I was like, don't follow me outside, please. Like, I need to be alone right now. And there are times that I'm just like, this is hard today. This is really hard today. But we have the freedom that when it gets hard like that, take a break. Take a break for the rest of the day. Take a break for an hour. I don't try to let it bog me down. Like, why am I doing this? How could I, I'm ruining my kids because of this, because, they see the struggle, but they also see that we're not giving up. We're working through it together as a family. There might be days where, we do one subject and their attention spans are not there. And there are other days where they just dive in and we get a lot done. And I'm like, okay, well, we did a lot this day, so that gives us a little more.
You're balancing every day.
Yeah.
You're dealing with what's there. And I run a business, and, I still have 3 daughters at home. One of them, I help her with online school. So I'm kind of like an online school teacher, if you want to call it, because I do help her quite a bit. And I have to balance that in, as well as, I balance in going to the gym, which maybe I sometimes get a little too much, but it's my balance. It's what keeps me in my balance when I switch from running a company to go back. But am I perfect at it all? No, just like none of us are, but you're trying to balance out to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I'm balancing out being able to homeschool a child and do online school. And so I think, again, we get what we value, and if we value that, then you make time for it.
For sure.
And some things do have to go. How much, I'm just curious, did faith play any part of your role in all of this happening or not?
Yes.
Did it?
It did. So I was raised in a family that went to church, and my grandma played the organ at church. Like, I was always brought up with God. But just like everything is, if you don't feed it, and it's just not really going to grow. And I wasn't feeding it. So my faith really started coming after me, is the way that I like to put it, a lot more recently. And then I would say the last 6 months, where there was just like, I can't get away from it. Not that I was trying, but I wasn't really opening up to it. And then when I finally opened up to it, it was just like everything that I was kind of on the fence about, like homeschooling, and now I have another business being built. But these things that I was kind of on the fence about, how do I do this? Is this the right thing? It just made so much sense. And so I know that God was the one that was pushing. But not only, was that part faith, but also I'm trying to incorporate that into our learning. Our history is Bible study. And, we've sat around as a family on our bed. It's super casual. We don't sit at desks. We don't sit at the table. We just, we'll sit down as a family and just talk about it. And, my kids are learning how to pray in front of people. They're just learning how to pray in general.
Well, that's huge.
Not necessarily learning, but just knowing like, hey, you can do it anytime, anywhere. If you're having a bad day, just pray about it. And that's kind of how I'm handling things. Or my discipline is, this is kind of silly maybe, but I'm like, my discipline is I'll ask the kids, like, what would Jesus do? Okay, you're getting angry, you're getting frustrated. What would Jesus do in this situation? And I make them think about it, think about it in a different way than how they're reacting. So now I have the opportunity to kind of have those little plugins of Jesus throughout the day where now my kids are texting me things that they're, they're having these Bible verses pop in their head because they've had a rough day, and they go and read the Bible verse, and then it turns out that that's actually a Bible verse that I needed to hear because things were hard. And it's just turned into this, I don't know, it's just beautiful.
Well, at our church, it's said all the time that God's way is the best way. And, when He becomes fuller in our lives, He just makes everything better. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you realize this is you are speaking, and also realizing that He's guiding you even more. He's balancing things out. He's making a way where you might not have thought. And if something doesn't look like it's happening the way it should in the business or whatever, God knows. I mean, He's always at work. And, He's working in your all's family, which your story is so unique. And it's, a full reason why you're here today is to help so many families understand that, you can make it work. If your desire is to have family life like that and be involved in your kids like that and enrich them so much more like that and make faith be so much more in their life and the whole generality of what you're doing. And, of course, you guys got a little bit more than some families in the sense of, and you got the farm, and you got some cows and some pigs and you got bees. You got this, a lot of life, but really nothing has full life until God's in the center. And then when He gets in the center, which I've heard enough of your stories now that He's getting His priority in there, then it's like I tell anyone, when God comes in, marriages are better, life is better, everything's beyond what you could have expected in the world sense. Mm-hmm. God adds this element that it just makes things better, mm-hmm. and it makes things work. And it doesn't make sometimes things easier, but it does make them easier because we know that He knows.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that life doesn't have challenge, because life does, and it will always have challenge.
Absolutely.
But if we've got Him in the center of it, He's unfolding and making it work, and He gives you a peace and all of that and pulls things together. And that's what I'm hearing here. So when I look at the viewer, it's like, well, if I wanted to homeschool, can I? Is there time? Well, yeah, there's time. And you can work social things in, you can work the school things, mm-hmm. and the sports. And I should say, I mean, you're finding a way. When you want it to have more in your children's life, there is a way.
There's absolutely.
And you're cutting social media to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I'd be verge to say you would cut more if you had to. I mean, you can just see the balancing going on.
Yeah.
To do all that you're doing, to say that this is possible. If you felt the nudge at all, it is possible.
Oh, yeah.
And I always say our first ministry as parents is our children.
Mm-hmm.
And
my goal is to, another reason I think I felt the push is because my goal is to actually build children to become adults that can do difficult things.
Yeah.
And those difficult things maybe are things that they see their parents go through every day.
Absolutely.
So they're learning, it may not be a textbook lesson, but they're learning things just in life. Maybe it is the juggling of everything in life, because they're going to maybe grow up and have kids of their own and be like, how did mom and dad do this? And then they'll be like, I got to call my mom, like I do, to my mom all the time. But there's just so much that can be learned by just being with your parents day in and day out. I used to go to work with my parents a lot. And I know not everybody has the freedom to take their kids to work, but it's one of those things that I can just see in my kids, that they have that chutzpah. I've said that word twice today. It's a Jewish word, I believe, but it means like that fire in them. And I see that they have that, so I want to feed that fire in what they're interested in. So I know that my oldest is super interested in animals and horses, so I'm going to push that and give her the tools to, if that's what she wants to excel in, then we're not going to worry about some of these other topics that maybe she's just not really too worried about.
Right.
My other daughter loves gaming, which those are so opposite that I have trouble, because I'm into the animals. I'm not into the gaming, so I have to remember, okay, I have to give as much attention to her and her interest, even though maybe it's not my own. So I have to try to, feed that one. And then my 5-year-old, she's an absolute crazy child. Her hair is, and it's so funny because the older she gets, the more crazy her hair gets, and that's her personality. So I'm struggling with trying to keep her entertained and not bored, and so it's all these challenges, but along the way we're all just learning how to deal with it all.
How interesting. I think you're guiding and leading each one of them, and not that, again, that I'm sure when you're in public schools that there's teachers that can recognize certain giftings or whatever, but the thing is this is a small classroom when you're doing it at home, and of anyone that would care, your parents should care probably the most, and be so concerned, or not concerned, but so into what their children are created to be, and how they're moving, and what their likes, because you're with them so much, and then you can gather that strength maybe quicker than they might get in being in a place of hundreds and hundreds of students, or thousands, whatever. So you're able to fine tune that, and because I think I was looking at my list, and because there's a lot of concerns, people about homeschooling, and we've talked about the socialization side a little bit and how you guys dealt with that. Well, you do need to keep certain activities, and however you do that.
Yeah, it's also a way for me to get out too. Like I if it weren't for work and me actually having to leave the house, I probably wouldn't. Walmart delivers now. Like, I don't even have to go get groceries. So I can do so much and hole myself in and just live my happy little life on my little farm.
Good point.
That I have to remind myself, like, I have to go do things too.
Because you're so busy at home doing like quality things.
Yeah.
It's like, why not? I mean, it kind of makes sense to me.
I might not even stay at their practice, but the drive to and from, well, you can tell me, I'm turning that music up and I'm jamming. Like, that's my little, like, escape in a way. So, got to think about it as,
Well, I think
for yourself,
you can balance it all out, that's for sure. And you can invest so much in your children like you guys are. And, some of the things I'm reading here, like one is, parents may not be qualified to teach all subjects effectively.
No.
But really, how do you address that? Because... So
I'm not great at math. My husband jokes because I take care of all the finances in the business and home and everything. And he's like, and you're going to teach the kids? He's just kidding, I think.
Right.
But there's so much out there. It's overwhelming. That was one of the biggest things for me was, am I enough? Can I do this? Can I actually teach these kids what it takes a whole school to do? And when I got in my head that if I mess up, this isn't the final decision. Like, if this turns out to not be good for our family, the public schools will take them back. I don't want them to. I'd be fine if they said no. But, you know, for me, that was part of the timing for us making that decision, was because I knew that if the first 6 months were like, this is clearly not for our family, then I would have them start school again. But it is just, everything has fallen into place.
Because it works.
I've prayed about it. So my oldest daughter loves math, and I'm not good at math. So I'm like, what am I doing here? So we have an online curriculum for math, and she loves it. She's done, we started in January, and by March she said she's going to be done with a whole year of math.
Wow.
So she's fine. But my other one, she didn't like that same program, so I just ordered her another one where it's going to be more of a watch a video and do a textbook. But then I'm doing kindergarten math. I can handle that. Luckily, I can count sticks. So, I'm more hands-on with my 5-year-old, but it doesn't have to be the same. I've bought multiple different curriculum because I liked this from this one and this from this one. And then I'll start it, and I'm like, nope, don't like that one. So it might at the beginning be a little rough, but I know that it's going to, smooth its way out, and we're going to find what we like.
Well, I think, again, it just takes a little bit of work, and, I bring that topic up because my family homeschooled all of my kids' lives, basically. And my wife would search out the best alternatives, and anymore there's so many online alternatives. Yeah. There's, she used to go to fairs and book fairs and bring in the actual books, and then she taught that way. So initially she was doing a lot of teaching just through the books. Now my youngest daughter, she's the only one in school now, and she's doing online school. And she can do online school. She can have online classroom. She can be in a classroom. She can set times to meet with a teacher. I mean, she could do all of that if she needs to. So there's so many good alternatives anymore. You just have to work it a little bit.
Well, a lot of people do college online. I did all my college online.
Right.
And nobody questioned it, not a single bit. But then when you take your kids out of a public school and they're doing it, it's like, oh, that's strange. That's weird. That's against the grain. But it's just an alternative, honestly.
I mean, it works. My daughter does a lot of school in the middle of the night because she's a night owl.
Yeah.
Okay? She loves it. Then in the day, she can maybe go to work. Yeah. And then she might volunteer to do work for something else at the church. Sure. She can do a day as she wants, which is kind of cool. So now she's learning to structure her life and a day and do multiple things to where she was, in this case, if she was going to school, well, then you're there from 7 till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and
that's the thing is that...
And not to put that down, okay, because we need our education system.
When the public school system were formed, society was a lot different. I mean, it was dad went to work, mom stayed home, to and from school. She did most of that stuff. Well, now it's both the parents are in the workforce, and it's really hard. This is why I said it's a lot less stressful having them out of schools, because I don't have to worry about getting them home. I don't have to worry about things they're learning on the bus. I got to the point where my kids didn't ride the bus anymore. And so wake up, go to school. And then when they were in preschool, leave work, go pick them up from school. And then after school, I was thankful enough to have a friend that worked at the school, and she'd bring them home for me. But it was just a lot of juggling on top of all the other juggling I was doing. So we've taken that out of our equation, and it seems to be a lot less.
It's a pretty good point.
A lot of less noise.
I mean, you've adjusted the pieces.
Yeah.
Got rid of a lot of other noise to do it another, to be able to have time for what you're saying you want to do, and it's actually easier.
It is.
Which is pretty crazy, but... And again, maybe homeschooling is not for everybody, but what we are saying here today is that I know there's many that would love to have homeschooling into their family and think, can they do it or can they not? Well, it can be done. You're not too busy. There is a way. There's so many curriculums online to use. I mean, it's just a matter of looking at your child. How do they learn the best? Is it a book? Is it online? What works for them? And you start seeing so many things that really make it work. And yet, you as a mom has to be involved, but that's okay because you're adjusting the pieces, as we just said, to make room for what matters. You're cutting out the junk kind of so that you can get to the having quality time on where you need quality time and not just wasting it.
For sure.
So it really does work. And not only that, I mean, and I'm sure you've seen it, and I of course have, because I've had my kids get online high school diplomas. So, it's like you will be accredited. All of them, most of them are usually accredited. And those will also, work for colleges as well. And I think it's just each one you look at the particulars, but really they're not out anything. It's all there.
Yeah.
And, not that it's the only way, but many homeschooling kids way out excel what they would have even done in school. Yeah. So there's so many good things to say about it, which is, another good piece. And to really say, that it does work. And then I've heard some say, well, the parents are just going to get burnt out. But you look at parent burnout, and really you're not getting burnt out. You might be working hard, but you're maybe getting less burnout because you're not wasting all this other time. Yeah. So you're really dealing with it in a better way.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that likes to do things my way. That's kind of apparent when it comes to showing how much we do, because, I don't know, I like to do things my way. But
so do I.
My husband and I, we luckily have the same way to do most everything. But
thank goodness.
It's harder, for us, it was harder to work with the school's schedule because of how our life was. And now I don't have to worry about that. We just make our own schedule. My kids missed a week of school last year, and it was almost like we were like slapped on the hand. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I will take my kids on a vacation anytime I want.
Right.
And nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And that was one of those extra little pushes, was the response of the school when I did everything I was supposed to do, let them know, should we take schoolwork with us on this trip, all that stuff.
And you have that flexibility.
Yeah.
Because you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy.
And now that's going to be part of our learning. Like, my goal is to take the kids, and I told them, I'm like, well, bring your friends, because our school doesn't have school on Mondays. So I'm like, we'll do our field trips on Mondays so that your friends can go with us and visit these places that we feel like we want to learn about, because why not?
So cool. I mean, it just, again, it says it works. And as we talk it out and as we listen to yours, you're just maneuvering every step of the way, and you're balancing things. Your kids are opened up to a lot of ideas. You instill all of these things to make it work. And you're involved. I think the biggest thing is you're literally involved in their lives and finding what works. And you're with them. They're your children, so you do know them, and now you even know them more. And it's like, I think it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah. And is it for everybody? Again, we'll say maybe not, for sure.
No. And it's not for every kid either.
No,
Some
absolutely.
Kids, they need that outside of the house time.
Absolutely. I don't know what I would have been like, because I like, my girls, they love the home life.
Yeah.
And I do too, but maybe the way I grew up, I like, they'd rather exercise at home with a set of weights and a treadmill. Well, I'd rather be in the gym because I love the environment.
Yeah.
Okay, that motivates me. So you're right. Everybody can be different. I think, as we talked today, is like, why would we do this? Well, if you want to do it, we're saying it works. Yeah. We're saying that it covers so many things,
And there might be those challenges where your child, if you do homeschool, is like, I miss school, but it's just not in your heart to send them back, that there are, like co-ops. There are
good point.
So many groups that get together weekly. We haven't started any of those because I honestly can't balance anymore. Not until this house is done.
You're good with where you're at.
Yeah. But that, if your child isn't involved in sports, it's not their thing, or band's not their thing, or private music lessons, or whatever, there are the co-ops, or there's church groups, there's
Such
Bible
a good
studies.
Point.
There's ways to get out there and get that, out of the house feel for the kid, that if you're just really against public schools, or you're just kind of like I was, I'm not really against public schools. There's a place and a purpose. But for my family, I was just like, that's not what I want.
Well, the thing is the point you just brought up is very, very important, because my wife, when she was living and did all the homeschooling, I mean, she used the co-ops. Okay, that was one way to get them, and they could go if they needed help with a certain, course.
Yeah.
Well, then she could go to the co-op. There might be somebody training that could help with that.
Yes.
And it could also open other activities or give you the ideas of them.
Make new friends.
Right. And then, of course, I had one daughter who she did homeschool national volleyball. Well, she did it for almost, 7 or 8 years. So that was very doable, and I would travel on weekends with her. And, so there was sports that, you can do, but we made that doable. I think my wife at one point, they didn't like it, but she got them involved in 4-H. You ever? Yeah.
That's available too.
Yeah, exactly. Which again, they didn't like. They didn't want to go out where the cows and the pigs were. But
We've tried the 4-H. It didn't work with our schedule.
Yeah.
But I was like, we kind of live in 4-H, so it was a struggle leaving to go do things that we were already doing all the time. So.
Well, my wife was a little like you. She had that, authoritative way. Even though she was as quiet as it could be, she was authoritative. I don't have the lack of better words, but no, she would make them do some things, make them experience something so that they could, before they could say they didn't like it, she's like, have you ever even tried it, kind of a thing. So she would make them do that, and maybe it takes an element of that sometimes, because if you don't know, then the parent maybe has to push them a certain way. It's like eating your green beans. If you don't like them, well, have you ever had them? No. Well, then if you really don't, well, then you don't. But you know what I'm saying?
Try it.
It does take a little bit of push sometimes, but at least if it's not working, you stop it. But that element is there as well, because I remember my kids complaining.
I like to say that the only permanent thing in life is change. So if something's not working, just change it. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you learned something and you figure out a new way to do it.
It can be hard, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I find that in business. It can be hard.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, well, God, you had me go this route. Why are you changing? And anyway, all of that plays a part. But I think that's going to be happening whether you're in homeschooling, public school, whatever you're doing in life. You got to deal with change and deal with those kind of things. And it just says, again, this homeschool life is very worth it if that's on your heart to do. And there's so many means and ways to do.
And I'm just in the beginning of it, and I'm just like, I'm so glad we've done this. So like years down the road, just seeing how it's gonna, weave its way even further into this beautiful thing. I can't wait.
Well, and we would say here, and we're partial a little bit, of course, but, of course, the podcast is winning by faith, and we know that by faith we can do all things. And, when God is in the middle of everything we're doing, as I've heard coming out of your stories, now, and especially as we had talked, a few times earlier now, that he's making it all work. And I like to tell the viewer, he makes things better, and he makes things be what they need to be. I like to say he wrote the manual. He created us. So, we should go to him when we're trying to adjust and do our life, because he knows a plan. Absolutely. Of course, the Bible says he knows the plans he set for us. So therefore, why not go to the one that wrote the plan? And I think
for sure.
Hearing you, I'm hearing that, it's like you're telling me he makes things better. And it's like life's just better with him. He really is the glue that holds everything together. And you mentioned at one point, even like doing your homeschooling, that, your daughter, one of them, if they wanted to start a business, which I don't know if you did, or you can do that and you can begin to work. You can plan on doing that and working with them when the time is right there in the day. And, you have that ability to do it when time is right. And you can just roll all these things in, and it can make a lot of things happen. Yeah,
because that might be something they're interested in. And if they're not, then, okay, we won't do it again.
And then you change it. And so I think, with what we've done here, I feel we have addressed for the homeschooling people thinking of it. I think we've dealt with a lot of the misconceptions and really brought reality to say that, social life can be good, that there is time for these things, that we can adjust our lives. We went through a lot of pieces. That's why your all's life is such a perfect scenario for somebody, because you guys have as much as you have going on. But you make life work, from business to home to farm to school to, the involvement on the farm with the animals and the beekeeping. I mean, there's so much creativity, but, so you're busy, but it doesn't matter.
We're busy, but they're busy with us.
Right. You've made them busy with you. You've
Yeah.
worked them into your very grain of life, which I think all of us need to do. I'm even guilty. Even at this point, I should work my children more into as I'm doing life with my everyday, or maybe a little bit of the business or whatever we do, because they're really what matters,
I mean, growing up, all I wanted to do was spend time with my mom and dad. So so there'd be times where, they wouldn't get home until late, and I'm like, come on, I want,
Is that right?
Let's hang out. But they're tired. They were working all day, and they're tired, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess let's go play in my room. I had wonderful parents. I'm not trying to make them sound bad. But now, I get to be around my kids when I do have the energy to be around my kids.
That's awesome.
Because it is, towards the end of the day, after doing everything that we do, I am tired. There's, I get a lot done in the day, but I'm so worn out, and so are my patients usually. But if that were the only time that I got to spend time with my kids, that wouldn't be great. I wouldn't want to sit down and read a book. I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't have the patience to have them help me make dinner or whatever it is that they're wanting to do. But now I'm able to have that throughout the day, off and on with them, that they get to see mom be happy. They get to see mom doing things, and dad. And
well, it's quality time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a good point that you're on from the degree of, I'm a single parent, and I still have 3 daughters at home. I run a national company, and, God knows I've got a lot of things happening, and yet find time for myself so that I keep myself going as well. Am I doing the overall daily life perfect? Absolutely not. But what I am finding is it's doable.
Yeah.
And I do have to draw the line with certain things. I have to draw the line with whatever it be, entertainment, whatever I got to pull out of the way. And some days, my days are full from morning till night.
Yeah.
But that's okay. And I'm finding I've got to work more of my time even for them, because the cool thing is they all want to be with me still, which I'm pretty fortunate to have 3 young adults still at home that want to be in my life. And some days I'm like, it's a burden a little bit, because you are tired as a single parent.
Sure.
But it's also great that they want to be, and I'm learning to want to give more there, put it that way, because really
it's a short amount of time that we get to see them every day, and I, for parents that haven't had their kids grow up, my oldest is 12, but it's been like that quick. And parents growing up are like, life's fast, slow down. And I'm starting to realize that it is really fast, and I don't want to miss out on the next 6 years before she's 18 and decides, maybe if she's gonna go off to college or go off and do her own thing. Like, I only have 6 years before she has the freedom to go do that. And it's kind of like, whoa, that was really fast. Like, it's not supposed to be that fast, but it is. So I'm going to try to make the most of it with all of them.
That's some pretty good words of wisdom for, I think, anyone that hears it. And I'm hearing it. I mean, I'm even now saying the same thing, Skylar, that, I've only got so much more time with them probably at home. And I should be thankful for what I've got and invest in that as much as I can.
Yeah.
And, again, it's one thing to have both parents at home. It sure helps. There's a lot of single parents I know out there, and I'm saying it's doable. I'm just saying you've really got to look at life's priorities and what's going on. It's doable not only time-wise, but it is doable financially, because there's so many sources anymore.
There's a lot of free sources.
Exactly. So it works for the single parent. Am I going to say it's a little tougher? Maybe.
Very possible.
But it's still very doable, and I'm living proof of that.
Yeah.
And I have to work hard sometimes, and maybe during the day I've got to figure out something that I got to do for them, and I might have to do it on a FaceTime on the phone, but I get it done, but you're always working, and it just says there's less time for other things, and there's time for what really matters. So I'm telling the viewer that's whether single or whether they're, of course, a dual scenario at home, it works. And it works always around. Well, I think, I feel good about what we've been able to tell the viewer today. There's again, a question. Your life and your family's life really speaks to how this can work and what it's done. I mean, in our stories that I've heard from you, it's evident that you're happy. I mean, again, I'm not saying you're not challenged. Life is challenging, but you can tell that it feels good because you're investing in your children and it's working and you're balancing life out and family is it. I mean, why else do we have kids if it's not for family?
Yeah.
Okay? It'd be like...
I've always had it in my head that I was the one, I'm like, they're my kids. I need to be the one that are spending time with them, not people
Why do we have children otherwise?
Yeah.
When you think about it.
I mean, they're awesome. Honestly, some people are like, I don't know how you spend all that time with your kids. I'd go crazy. And I'm like, well, I got really cool kids. But,
yeah.
But they're so funny. Like, I've picked up on so much from them that, if I wasn't spending all the time with them because I was, tired, I wasn't paying attention to the silliness that they bring home. And, they're very joyful. It's
Absolutely.
so fun to see. Yeah.
It's kind of like God. You can't outgive God, and you can't really outgive investing into your children,
Right.
because the more you give to them, it does come back. Mm-hmm. And I believe that all the time. And love conquers all, and the more you love on them, it'll come back.
Yeah.
And it might get challenging sometimes, but I guarantee you,
Definitely challenging sometimes.
it's all worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, why would we have them if we didn't want family and if we didn't want to invest in them and want to see them be all they could be? And it's really pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've been busy in business and I've failed some just because you're so busy, but
We're guilty of that too.
Exactly. So, we all fail, okay? We all fall down, but thank God that He doesn't condemn us where we fail. He's always ready to pick us up, give us
Yeah.
His grace and mercy to help us
So
do what He
thankful for
wants us
that.
to do.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about God. He wants us to win in our life, in our family's life, and all the way around. So, well, I think we'll wrap it up here, Skylar. I think bottom line is if you have questions on homeschooling, you could message us here at Winning by Faith, and I'm sure we could try to help you. But, as we've talked today, there's no reason if you want to homeschool that you can't, whether you're
Right.
single, whether you're married, whether it's finances, whether it's time. You've heard all the stories that we've mentioned today that it works. And Skylar's family alone, it has so much going on, but yet when you desire something, there is room for it.
Yeah.
Just like there's room for 7 hours of social media a day, there's room for it.
Absolutely.
It's really our priorities and what is on our heart. So I'm here to say that this works for anyone, and whether it's sports, whether it's credentials for high school to get into college, it doesn't matter what we're looking at. There's so much available anymore that it can all happen. And if
Absolutely.
you need help, again, you could message us, and we'd be glad to help you. But we do know that in Christ, all things are possible. In
Yes.
faith, all things are possible. And homeschooling, if that's what you want, is possible, and it could be the best thing you ever did for you and your family. So, Skylar, it's been a joy. I've
you.
learned even from
Pleasure.
hearing your story today. So I'm glad you came on, and thanks for
Me
being
too.
with us. And guys, as always, go out and win by faith.